So thank you all for coming. For those who are joining us online, but for those who came here to Leeuwarden today, we are really pleased to see you all, and I'm saying that as a spokesperson for the DarkSky project.
Doesn't work.
No, we tested, but now we tested it, and so it will do okay. Could you? Okay. So really pleased to see you all. I am Enora Morin, the project manager for DarkSky at the University of Brest in France as a lead partner. I will be the moderator for today, so your go-to person if you have any questions, and hopefully by the end of the day you won't be tired of hearing my voice. Let's hope not. Just for your information, during the whole meeting, the whole event, I should say, you can put your questions on the Slido. So for those who are here, there are some prints out of the QR code where you can put your questions, then you can vote for the most relevant questions, and we will get to them later on during during our Q&A session from 3:50 to 4 o'clock. So if you want to already put the link on your phone, you can. And now, we are part of the DarkSky project. So as you can guess from our project's name, we are trying to fight against light pollution. So we just wanted to give a short reminder on the subject, on the topic of light pollution. It is an increasing problematic since 30 years ago with the creation of the first blue LEDs, which affects, of course, wildlife, but also human health. It also raises issues on the topic of energy consumption, on crime and safety. So it is truly a problematic that we can tackle from different angles. So back in 2023, we formed together a partnership, DarkSky One. We are made of 13 different organizations coming from 4 different countries, so France, Germany, Netherlands, Denmark. We are a 3-year project, so we started 2 years ago. We will finish in 2026. And to finance all of our work, we've got a total budget of 4 million euros, for which 60% is funded by the Interim North Sea program. So as you can see here on the slide, we are a partnership made of universities who works alongside municipalities and ports. So the universities bring along their expertise on sky brightness measurements, but also on the topic of ecological monitoring. The aim of the DarkSky project is pretty simple: to try as best as we can to reduce light pollution and to increase the biodiversity in the North Sea area. So to do so, we aim at providing ports and municipalities with innovative measuring, monitoring, and co-design methods to implement new lighting solutions which are environmental friendly. And to do so, we base all of our work on our 9 demonstrator sites that you can see here on the maps. So at each of our demonstrator sites, we change the lighting. And to know the type of content that we want to have in our new lighting, we decide through a bottom-up approach or a top-down approach. So during the day, all of the pilot region will explain to you their method and what do they do at their demonstrator sites. So we modify our lighting at the demonstrator site, and then we check on the efficiency of our light modification through 3 different types of measurements. So the first one is about sky brightness measurement. Another one is through ecological monitoring. And then we also conduct a sociological survey to get our stakeholder needs. For our project, we work in two phases. So a first phase of measurements done before we change our lighting, and then the exact same type of measurements are done after we change our type of lighting. So we truly have a study for which the calendar is based on our light modification, which were done either at the end of 2024 or going to be implemented at the beginning of 2025. Then I will present to you shortly all of our demonstrator sites. So the first one is the one further away from Leeuwarden in Brest, so in the western part of France. In Brest, we've got two demonstrator sites. The first one is here at the Sainte-Anne Valley, for which you can see there is a small beach and then a road who goes until economic buildings. So for this site, Brest Métropole decided on lowering the temperature of color. They also put a detector to know when there is pedestrian and the hikers who pass through the demonstrator site to have lights only when it is necessary. And they also decided on switching off the light from 1 o'clock in the morning to 5:30. And here you can see some pictures from before modification to after modification. And then for the second demonstrator site, which is called Moulin Blanc Beach. So the Moulin Blanc Beach is the biggest beach for Brest, and the light modification are done on the road dedicated to pedestrians and to bicycles. There, in total, 35 lampposts were modified, and one of the main modifications was the height of the support height. So it went from 14 meter high to only 4 meter high. And of course, the light distribution was reworked as well as change the color temperature of the lanterns. We also have a detector there, and it was decided to switch off the light from 10:30 to 6 o'clock in the morning. Then, to go in another place, we've got two demonstrator sites in Hamburg, Germany. There, the modifications are also done. They decided to change the heads of the lamppost, the luminaires. They converted from compact fluorescent to LED, and they decided to work on the emission of lighting, so now it goes only on the ground and does not go above the horizontal line. Then for the other demonstrator site in Hamburg, which is called Bullwich. In total, 5 pole masts were modified. We went from a warm white to amber light type of color. They also converted to LED. They worked on the reduction of the light power and also worked on the glare from the lights. And here the modifications are also done. Then to go to another place, to Holberg, the city, the small city that we will visit later tonight for those of you who will join us. In total, there are 3 demonstrator sites in Holberg. All of the lighting modifications are decided through a bottom-up approach. So there is a consultation with the citizen going on. As of now, all of the content is not decided yet, but as of now, we already know that they will, of course, reduce the light level. They will try to have alternative luminaires, use sensors in places that is most relevant. So here we've got the city center, which is concerned by the modification. Then in the industrial area, modification should also be done. And the third and last place is the pier area. So just some things to note is that the consultation is still going on, but for the pier area, there are still some discussion to have because the pier could be relocated. So it's still an ongoing subject. Then, to go back to Germany, we've got the harbor of Norddeich. So for darker sky, only the western part of the harbor is concerned by the lighting modification. The modifications were done at the end of last year, but some adjustments are still to be made this year. So here they also converted to LED technology. They worked on the light color, they adjusted the light angle, the shielding, they have remote lighting control, and they worked on the light intensity, and they also put a sensor in some places to truly reduce the light emission. And then, to finish with our demonstrator site, we've got another harbor, the one from Leeuwarden in the Netherlands. Here, they decided on using a bottom-up approach. So they are consulting with all the stakeholders from the harbor. And the modifications are still going on. It is not finalized, but they already started thinking about the position of light shields so that it only emits light on the ground. They have now a dark sky dimming regime in the evening, and some entrepreneurs, which are located in the port, decided to switch off their light starting at 9 o'clock at night. And of course, they are also thinking about lowering the temperature of color, and they are also making the best of nature. So they are using trees which are present at the harbor to shield more from artificial lighting. To finish with my introduction, just to tell you, so we started two years ago. As of now, we can say that for what we achieved, 5 out of the 9 demonstrator sites finalized their light modification. Something else that we managed to create is common protocol for all the measurements that we are doing. And we started to gain an expertise on how to raise awareness to the general public and relevant stakeholders through the night walks, which are organized workshops using 3D modeling for some parts. And of course, well, the next step for us is to analyze all of the data that we've got, finish with our monitoring phase, and to be able to share with municipalities and ports our findings and our protocol, and give a guide to you to try to have in mind biodiversity and other type of aspects when working on public lighting. So for the agenda, for this afternoon, we will start with a presentation focusing on Brest. So with Saïk from Brest Métropole and me as a representative from the University of Brest to talk about ecological monitoring. Then we will go to Norddeich with a focus on light measurements and the lighting challenges that the port can have. Then we go to Hamburg, who will introduce us new engaging planning tools and lighting strategies. And then we'll finish off the first part of the event with presentation from Hall Larenstein University representative to talk about community engagement and participation. And as I said earlier, there will be a time dedicated to Q&A. So if you have any questions, put them on the Slido, and we'll get back to them after that. So Saïd, if you want to come, we start right away with the presentation of Brest for 15 minutes.
Hello, everybody. So in Brest, we have more than 220,000 people, inhabitants. We are dealing with more than 36,000 lighting points. So in 2021, we decided to build up a new lighting strategy because we wanted to make it more comprehensive with all the local actors. So First, this new strategy is built on 3 steps. The first one was the lighting diagnosis. So we made it very sharpen the knowledge of our lighting points. The second one was the territorialization of the different issues of our territory, because we have to deal with political, technical, or social issues on all the city or metropole. And the third step, which never ends actually, because it's the definition of the strategy and the lighting assets, in fact. So we have to merge all the issues to find the better way to make the lighting in the city. So the strategy is called the Nocturnal Ambience Coherence Scheme in ACS. So it's come with political validation, because we have to involve all political strategy at night, dealing with for example, service population, territorial proximity, or urban planning, sensitive natural spaces, or urban tranquility, or citizen participation. So all these politics must be involved in the process to make the validation of what we present. So methodology have been undertaken in Brest Metropole, and we want to make an evolving strategy from a top-bottom method to a bottom-up method, because we make a global strategy, but we have to know the local needs of public lighting, and that's why we want to collect the information of the user on the field. And so all parts of Metropole don't work the same way on all the time. So we are making some activities, we develop some activities on the field to collect the real needs of public lighting. So make interactive, dynamic map, in fact. So you can show the result on the screen of the different possibility to express by the NECS. So the first map is based on the mobility topics, which define the illuminance level. The second one is more about biodiversity issues. So we can find we adapt the lighting color temperature of different parts of the territory. And the third one is how we dim or switch off the light on the territory according to the real use of the light. So as Enora presented it just before, we have made some changes. But some results we find, for example, is that we put some energy consumption monitoring in the cabinet, the electrical cabinet. We can see for the 2 past weeks that the use of the public spaces is not the same all the night on all the week, because it's a Thursday night, we have some peak, because each peak is a user detection, so we can see that not the same every time. And after in Moulin Blanc, we made some changes too, and the main part of our innovation is that we lower the total installed lighting flux. We divided that twice. So now the further objective is to know to follow that the cumulated illuminated flux along 1 year, because as we change the functionment, because we are dimming and we are detective users, I think we have got a very lower lighting flux accumulated.
And then, yeah, should be here. So as was said during the introduction part, for DarkSky, so we use 3 different types of measurements. For this presentation, we will focus on the ecological monitoring, for which the University of Brest takes the lead on. So just as a reminder, what the objective is. With an ecological monitoring, our objective is to know what species live at our demonstrator sites, their nocturnal activity, and then make a comparison between those instances before and after we do the light modification. So at the start of the project, we decided on what taxonomy group we will study. The first one that we decided would be bats, for which the University of Brest gives its expertise and we do the analysis. So for bats, the study period goes from April to May, because it is the period in the year where they are most active. So there are 12 nights in total where we listen to their activity from 1 hour before sunset to 1 hour after sunrise. And as you can see, in the first phase of monitoring and in the second phase, all of the time are the same. Then we decided that we also had to study birds. So for that, the Institute of Volksforschung gave their expertise, and now the UBO will be the one doing the analysis. So for birds, we decided on choosing the study period going from March to May. It is also the period where birds are most active, because it is a reproduction period, so they sing most actively. And just to know that we could have chosen the period of autumn, because it is the migration period, but due to the project calendar, it wasn't possible, so we had to make some concession. So here the point is the same as for bats. We record their activity at night, but here it is a continuous nocturnal recording. And then we also study flying arthropods, for which Hall Larenstein gives their expertise. So for that, we put sticky traps on the field 3 times during a period that can go from May to July. And for insects, I don't need to tell you, it is the period where they're most active. You can feel it for yourself with mosquitoes, for example. And then, in a more original way, we decided to study benthic fauna. So that is to say the fauna which is living in the rocky shore, so close to the sea. And here we only need to have 1 day of study, but it is truly an experimental protocol. So now to talk about the main step of the ecological monitoring. So of course, a first step was the creation of a common protocol, which took us 6 months. And the point is to make it common, but then we can make some adjustments depending on the specificities of each demonstrator site. Then a second phase is to decide on the treatment zone and the control zone. So the treatment zone is where we actually do the lighting changes, But then we also decide on a control zone, which has almost the same ecological local condition, but does not do any lighting changes. This way, we can say for sure that any changes from the biodiversity, wildlife, is due to our lighting changes and not to a specific year. Then, of course, there is all about the setup and the maintenance of the monitoring equipment. So for benthic fauna, it's only about having quadrats. Then for bats and birds, we need to have acoustic recorders, and for insects, it's sticky traps. So just to say that for acoustic recorders, it does need to have a weekly checkup due to the storage and battery capacity. Then to show you some results, because we got some of them. Last year we did our first period of monitoring. So we are going to show you the result for Sainte Valley. So first for bats, we had 6 audiomodes in total as our demonstrator sites. And thanks to them, we could identify what species of bats there is. In total, we've got 12 of them in Brest, which is really important because it allows us to highlight the high diversity that we've got in Brest and the need to have an adequate public lighting. And just to note that some species are more sensitive to light than others, so there is really work to do to keep them in Brest. Then for birth results, in total we had 2 sogmeters, and with more than 1,000 hours of recording, we were able to identify species of birds. So thanks to our software called BirdNet, we decided to only focus on 3 species of birds because they have the most distinctive way of singing, so it's easier to analyze them. And they are also so common that we can find them at each of the DarkSky demonstrator sites. So it means that it's easier for common analysis. And something to note is that we discovered that they have an abnormal activity because at Sainte-Anne, birds are singing during the night, which is not normal. They should be sleeping. And in the long run, it can have an impact on their reproduction system because they are getting more tired. Then, for flying arthropods or insects, we put on the ground 14 sticky traps. And from our first phase of analysis, we can say only that there is no main difference between the control and treatment sites, but we are waiting for further analysis from DHL to know more about it. Then I would say that for the ecological monitoring, the next step is, of course, to finish the second phase of monitoring, which started this month, and to analyze the data of each demonstrator site, to have a feedback from each of our partners to know if it's feasible or not, if we have to adjust our protocol, to be able then to provide a monitoring guide to municipalities and ports who wants to implement such changes. And it is important to note that as of now, we don't know if it's a good protocol or not, and if it will truly have an impact on biodiversity. All of that is truly experimental, but we will get back to you on the subject in 2026. And then to finish the presentation, you can find here the contacts. So today I was a spokesperson for the University of Brest. But the one who leads the working group is Johan Roulet, my colleague. He's not here today, but he's here online. So if you've got any question on the subject of ecological monitoring, he will be able to answer you during our time. And of course, just to note that a lot of people contributed to the ecological monitoring in that. So that's it for this presentation. Then I will ask Denise from the Niedersachsen Post to come alongside Andreas, an astronomer affiliated to University of Oldenburg. They will talk about, well, the demonstrator site of Norddeich, but also lighting measurements.
Yes, welcome to the presentation of the Norddeich project site as part of the DarkSky project. Today we will take a closer look at the pilot site and briefly discuss our concept and challenges involved in the process. And afterwards, my colleague Andreas will present you the light measurements and the methods used in more detail. To start, I would like to give you a brief introduction to our company, NPorts, and the Port of Norddeich. This is us. Yes, so NPorts was founded in 2005 and is the largest operator of public seaports in Germany with 15 port locations in total. Along the North Sea coast of Lower Saxony, we have 5 large seaports, 7 island ports, 3 regional ports, and 1 central. As a service provider for our port customers, we provide the port infrastructure and maintain it and allow our customers to handle cargo in our ports. The northern branch manages the port of Norddeich, which you can see at the top here. And in Norddeich, which is the demonstrator site, as Enora already explained, we have also 2 ferry lines to the islands of Juist, which is the left one here, and to Norderney. So the northern branch is also responsible for the island supply. Yeah, here we see the Port of Norddeich from above. The Port of Norddeich is basically divided into 2 parts. We have the western part, where we mostly have the leisure harbor area. Here is the smaller ferry line to the island of Juist, the train station where many tourists arrive. And then we have the east port, which is the project area for DarkSky. In the eastern port, we have most of the cargo handling, some smaller ferry lines, water taxis, but also the big ferry line to the island of Norderney. So there's a lot of traffic in the east port. This also shows in the figures. I don't want to go into too much detail, but what's the most impressive here is that we have around 85% of the passenger movements of NPorts at all here in Norddeich. So in 2023, it was 6.8 million passengers that we moved to the port, which is quite a lot. And of course, we always want to make sure that these people are safe in our port. So to ensure this, we have introduced a corporate guideline for lighting, and especially with the focus on environmental lighting, with 4 key measures or key principles. First is lighting control. We use shielded luminaires and want to avoid unnecessary emissions into the atmosphere. Then we use a lighting control system, which Enora already mentioned, to further reduce light emissions. We use different light colors for areas close to water. We use 1800 or 2200 Kelvin, and for areas a bit far away, we use 3000 Kelvin. And also we, through regular visual inspections, we ensure the compliance of these measures. And in collaboration with the DarkSky project team, we then took the initial lighting situation in Norddeich, and because in the past the focus on the lighting was mainly on functionality. We had many different lamp types and technologies in the port, and with converting the lighting as part of DarkSky, we wanted to develop an optimized lighting concept based on our corporate guideline and optimize it. And therefore, we defined a total of 8 measures. Some of them were already mentioned. The last one isn't shown here, actually. Point 8, this is where I want to set a focus on for now. This is the so-called walking light or walk of light, which you can see here on the top. We wanted to address the topic of light color again and set up a test area with different light colors, together with multi-sensors that we test over there. And with the walk of light, we wanted to make even warmer light colors than the ones that we use tankable in the port, and increase the acceptance for these warmer light colors among port customers, workers, and other stakeholders. For more details on the walk of light, you can scan the QR code to get to our press release, and also the full concept with the 8 measures explained in more detail can be found on the DarkSky homepage. Yes, it wasn't always easy. We also faced some challenges, and a major challenge for us was when developing the concept to meet both the legal requirements and occupational safety and the environmental requirements with our harbor lighting. One problem was that a concrete legal framework in Germany is so far only exists for human activities. For example, there are minimum legal requirements for roads or workplaces. However, other laws like the Federal Emission Act or the Federal Nature Conservation Act do not yet permit any concrete application and or are being discussed at the moment. So yeah, the legal situation is kind of complex and sometimes very unclear. Another problem is that with the same light intensity, LED lamps can appear brighter than the older technologies we use, at least in terms of the perceived light brightness. So therefore, standard compliant lighting can often mean that it becomes brighter than initially wanted. But we therefore see great potential in the adaptation of the standards or the introduction of upper limits for lighting. And yeah, because with our lighting control system, we are very flexible to adapt the lighting and dim down to reduce the light emissions. And yeah, to monitor how the light brightness changed as a result of the conversion, Andreas will tell you more about the light measurements we did.
Maybe you can use the microphone.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? No, it's not switched on. No? Interesting. Okay. Just to talk about the light measurements, you see here the map of the harbor that you have seen, and you see the points, the lighting points that will be exchanged. But I want you to show mainly how we did the measurements. For instance, we made the measurements on the street, so we measured the horizontal illuminance in lux. But we also measured the horizontal and the vertical illuminance at the sticky traps because we want to know also how bright it is to the insects at the sticky traps. So it was a little bit climbing up to go up to the sticky traps. We did this with a calibrated lux meter. And the other things were that we took all these measurements. Just to show you an example, we also took a spectrum. That's, for instance, sodium low pressure street. And you see all the measurements. You see that's quite continuous. The horizontal brightness, the vertical brightness changes a lot because we have there, for instance, a ship that illuminates directly to the trap. And so it's much brighter. And on the street, that's again more or less continuous, the illuminance. So that's already an important, important information. The other measurements of the sky brightness and also the street brightness we took with just a normal digital lens camera, the fisheye lens that is calibrated. So this is the most expensive of this instrument, and we took these pictures, and that's a dark place where we took these pictures, and you see that there the illuminance is very, very low because it's a dark sky, but nevertheless you see all the bright lights over there. These were the Bentos monitoring, and we took just there some measurements. So you see it's about 5 lux, the intensity, the illuminance at this area. And then we tried something different, and it was very difficult to get the permission to do this. We flew with a drone because with the drone it would be easy to get the distribution of the illuminance. Yeah, but these are just raw pictures. It shows that it's especially an instrumental effect because of the vignetting of the lens. we still have to compensate it. But here you see also the measurement points. We did it like the norm set that we made a measurement grid of 3 meters grid width. And that was then the result. And we tried to compare the instrument, the professional instrument, with a very simple instrument like this one. And it just costs about 50 euros. And you see that the results also with the simple measurement grid, reduced measurement grids, is more or less the same, but that's due to the fact that the illuminance here is very, very uniformous. Okay, and that is the sky, the luminance measurements there in the K, and you see it's quite bright. 2 candela per square meter is very, very high, because normally you have 1 candela. That's what has just been described. We try to reduce the lighting level to the earlier stage. And these are the other measurements we make of the sky. Normally we use the sky quality meter, this instrument, but we have also one or several installed. They're fixed, but we have not yet the results. They measure every night, but these are just for hand measurements. But we also took the pictures. You see, unfortunately, it was no clear weather, it was bad weather. Just a final comparison with the West Harbor, because in the East Harbor where the exchange is, we will take the measurements later after the retrofit. But in the West Harbor, it has been done already before the project, and we compared that, and you see that after the retrofit, it became much, much brighter than it has been before the retrofit, about 4 to 5 times brighter. And for this, we just took some of these comparison measurements, also the luminance measurements. You see that especially at the K, we have 2.5 lux, but here you see the luminance measurements, and afterwards it was much, much brighter. So comparing all these measurements shows 2022 and 2024 already in this region that the retrofit became much, much brighter. But NPorts says that we will adapt it also with this. That was before the project, yeah. But we will try to regulate it to get it also to a modest level, a normal level that should be for these measurements. Okay, thank you.
So thank you to Denise and to Andreas for their presentation. So as you can guess, we do have astronomers who help us out with the sky brightness measurements. In some parts, it can seem a bit complicated, but we do try to have a protocol for even non-experts to be able to implement it. So we will welcome then Heike and Vögel from the district of Altona in the city of Hamburg to talk about new engaging planning tools and lighting strategies.
Yes, thank you. My name is Heike Bunte. I work for the city of Hamburg and here for the district of Altona, which is 1 out of 7 districts. Together with my colleague Vögel, we are in charge of the DarkSky project. And imagine now you are a mayor of a city, of a municipality, and you have to tell your people not only to switch off lights in public spaces for 1 hour, like we recently did, but much more often. And at the same time, you have to explain why safety does not increase, it decreases. So with this background, as a city, right, we are coming from a different background and trying, we are trying really to engage as many stakeholders as possible. And as a big city, again, you can imagine how difficult it can be. Hamburg is, in comparison to other cities, a container ship, and container ships are slow. And some changes are also slow, and it's very difficult to get all actors and stakeholders on board. I would say overall we are working very well together, and as a district we rely and we keep an eye on a decision building which we make together. But nevertheless, the upper levels set the guidelines for the city and for the district, so we need to work together with them, and we need to get them on board as well. If it comes to public lighting, we have specific stakeholders which we engage in our planning, because also Altona is working on more climate action plans, and especially for mobility and energy. Now let's go to our pilot sites. Enora already mentioned it. We have one at the River Elbe, which is very important for Altona itself, because on one hand, it's the green lung for our citizens, and on the other hand, it's a very vivid, important pathway for cyclists and pedestrians going from outside to inside of the city. Last but not least, on the other side, we have the harbor, right? So each day between 6,000 and 8,000 people are going by boat to the other side. You can see from the picture, it can be pretty dark at this Elbe Wanderweg, but also the effects coming from the other side in terms of light pollution is huge, because Hamburg is quite big in terms of, if we look to the harbor. But also, it is very remarkable that along the River Elbe, we have really plants which are on the red list, like the hemlock water dropwort, a bit of tongue twister, which is worldwide unique. We also have a lot of insects which are on the red list as well in the same area, even if we face the light pollution from the other side of the river. So it is a unique place, the River Elbe and this Elbe Wanderweg, if it comes to plants and insects and bats. The second pilot site or demonstrator is the Wildorfer Knick Bullenwisch, which is in the northwest part of Altona. Also here, a very green area, important for recreational activities, a protected landscape. And here again, it is very difficult to change public lighting, because usually we don't want to add more light. We want to reduce public lighting in specific areas, but nevertheless, safety from the viewpoint of citizens, our neighborhoods, is an issue for us to tackle. Okay, how to get now this important stakeholders on board, and how to convince your people to trust us that we follow the right way if it comes to reduce light pollution. There's one way you can discuss, and you can invite people, but we decided, for example, to do the so-called night walks. So we invited our neighborhoods to experience the nighttime and darkness again. We invited them to think about what means brightness or what means darkness, and that brighter light does not necessarily mean more safety for daily life. You all know this as experts, but sometimes it's really hard to convince your local people to reduce the light, right? So we want to raise awareness if it's coming to light pollution, to train them, to show them our environment and what we have there in terms of insects, in terms of animals, in terms of plants. So this is the way how to get our citizens on board. Again, here we had vivid discussions in the end, but it was worthwhile to choose this kind of participation for citizens. And now I'm coming to our co-partner, the University of Applied Science. And here we use the 3D modeling, a touch table, a digital system to convince and to work with our other districts and the upper authorities together on plans to reduce light pollution. So this touch table is possible to work in real time, or it is possible to focus on the environment. It is possible to show the surrounding, and it is possible to interact with the pilot sites directly. And this is important to face because as a huge city, you do not know every corner of your city or district or environment. So we also think it is not only good to involve politicians and our authorities, but also if it comes to students, and we did it also with young children and young adults, which is quite a success, I would say, if it comes to participation, because we show them also that digitalization plays an important role for administration and in administration. Here you can see that we have different tools for the touch table. We have figures. You can build your surroundings, so to say, and you can also simulate within the interactive touch table the old situation with the former lighting and the new situation, which is the benefit. In order to do so, our co-partner, the university, did the measurement of the old and new lighting. And with that, we did 2 workshops. One was focused on more sustainable lighting strategies for Altona in general, where we tested the tool with them. And we wanted to get information from our colleagues, what they think. Is it manageable? Is it a good thing to invent and to work on? And the second workshop focused much more on specific target groups, and here on cyclist and pedestrian perspective, because, as I said, we are also working on mobility change and to increase active mobility as a sustainable mode of transport. And in a former project, we found out that cyclists and pedestrians have completely other needs if it comes to public lighting. This is why we thought it is good to test and work with the touch table just from the viewpoint of this specific target group. So this is how it looks like in reality then. You get the virtual specific classes, you create your surrounding, and you can test and change within your virtual reality the surrounding and the environment. I'm not going into every workshop result, but simulation of glare and glare intensity is very important if it comes to use this touch table and the instrument, because, as I said, pedestrians and cyclists have different needs. It is also important to include different weather conditions, because now the simulations always have a clear night, so to say, but not rain or snow or something like that, because this also changes your expectations and when you are in the environment. Again, if you talk to politicians, if you talk to different stakeholders, it is important not only to come with the latest instruments, but also with real measurements. So the colleagues from the university also measured the old situation and the new situation, and it is very relevant for us as a city to explain those in depth and to show the positive and negative effects of the new luminaires we want to build also in the future. So for Bodenwisch, we also did a couple of testings and measurements, which will continue for the whole project. And at the moment, we think that we created a much better environment also for cyclists and pedestrians. Yeah, this is one of the pictures which shows the measurements before and after. So if we are talking about improvements, and now, as Enora already said, it's more or less half of the project is gone, you need to think about improvements and what to tell, because politicians and also the mayor is asking you, oh, how is the situation now? What can we tell our people? Again, it's also about safety, right? And if we talk about the touch table, and we found that it is a very nice and very nice tool to use with citizens, to use with our colleagues, we think that we need, or the colleagues from the university, of course, will do it, add, so to say, feelings. Feeling of safety or fear is very important when you are even in a virtual reality. To do this, it's quite complex because you have to put on a heart rate monitor, and then after that you can transform it into a quite complex simulation, but it is possible. Again, of course, there are improvements also if it comes to the specific glasses. This is also what the colleagues found out. And again, it is also important that we always do it with real testing persons and not only with researchers or us from the administration. So to invite people really to test it, then you will get much better results and improvements of the tool. And last but not least, this tool enables us to show a 3D modeling, not only during daytime, but also at night. And this is quite complex, but this helps also in terms of city planning and urban planning, because imagine more and more people moving into cities, right? So we have the tendency to make our buildings higher and higher because the people have to live somewhere. But the shadow at night from a 7-story building is different than from a 3-story building. So if you have shadow, you have again a different situation. You have again zones or areas of fear. And you can simulate this with this tool. So you see, if you plan your city or urban space new, what is going to happen between daytime and nighttime, which is quite nice. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Heike. So we had the input of Hamburg, where they use 3D modeling to help their workshop to have a truly engaging conversation with the local stakeholders. And then we will go back to the Netherlands with a presentation focusing on Leeuwarden and Holland demonstrator sites about community engagement and participation.
Thank you, Enora. Hello everyone. My name is Nienke, and I will be representing Lauwersoog Harbor here on behalf of the University of Groningen. So I'm the project manager. And I will talk about co-creation and the community engagement that we have at our site. And I think it's a pretty unique location in many ways. And I hope I can show you this. So I want to start with why dark sky is so important in this pilot location. And it has many reasons, of course, but specifically here in Lauwersoog, because we are located right here is the harbor, right on the border between the province of Friesland and Groningen. But we are right in the middle of two very big nature reserves parks. So we have the Waddenzee here at the top, and then also a very big park, the National Park Lauwersmeer right here. So there's a lot of birds with all different kinds of animals and species. So a dark sky especially is important right here. And then one other thing to mention as well is that the National Park Lauwersmeer is a recognized dark sky park. And this means that not only do we have an obligation to keep it dark and to make it darker, but it also needs to be designed in a way so that people and visitors can also experience the darkness here. And that means that we have been working on the project of light pollution, the topic of light pollution already for a couple of years, multiple years. So there has been some projects before the DarkSky project already. So Heike already mentioned how important public engagement is. So one of the projects we did before was called Donkerte van de Wadden. And there has been realized among the entire Waddenzee coast, but also in Lauwersoog, some places to experience this darkness during the day and during the night. So this is, for example, a planetary trail where all the planets are to scale, and you can walk through the park to see the planets. And also, this is a very big planisphere. It's about 6 meters in diameter. It's on the roof of a fireplace, and you can turn it, and if you put it in the right place, and you can see what stars are visible at that time, for example. But also during the night, there are certain places where you can experience the darkness. So on the top here, there's like benches you can put down to comfortably look at the stars. So we've been working on awareness of light pollution already for a bit longer, but still in this area, there's one big light polluter, and we saw it at the university as well, and that was the harbor of Lauwersoog. So we had to do something about it. And in 2022, Piet, who is in the back, Piet Zijlstra, he's a civil engineer, and he went to the harbor and he took loads of pictures. So I'm going to show you a couple of those. So this is, of course, all before modifications. And this as well. And it's clear that there's no one here at this moment. So the harbor is empty. But what you see is that there's still a lot of lights turned on. So this is a restaurant, but the restaurant is empty. But still, they have their lights on. Another restaurant, and here as well. So the road is over here, but also this part is completely lit, which is pretty unnecessary. And this is where the ferry to Schiermonnikoog sails off. Yeah, and even more. So he took. I only showed you like 9 pictures, but there's way more. So what Piet did with these pictures. And actually, this was very convenient for us as the DarkSky project, is that there was already an initiative, and this was by all important people in the harbor, so there's entrepreneurs, but also government bodies, the Port Authority, and the Driving Forces class, who's also in the back next to Piet. And they had a goal, and it was to have a clean port that generates its own energy, is fossil-free, and also for us very important, where the nature of the Waddenzee is clearly visible. And they were founded, I think, in 2018, if I'm not mistaken. So it's already a couple of years before these pictures were taken. But in 2022, Enier Pelletier, a professor at the university, he came in contact with the Harbor Coalition. And Piet went to one of their meetings, and he did basically what I just did now. So he showed you pictures, but then the XXL version. So he showed way more pictures. And I wasn't at this meeting personally, but what I heard is that as the pictures went on, the room got quieter and quieter. And as soon as Piet was done, basically the consensus was, okay, we have to do something about this. So this is where basically the bottom-up approach and the co-creation started. So from here, from here, a light vision and a master plan was created. And yeah, for us, it's very convenient, of course, that this was already there. It's also important to mention that Piet and Reinier, the names I mentioned before, they had in mind that there needs to be a light vision before you can actually do something. So what they did is they first had to see what are the problem. Where is too much light? How much light do we actually need? Because it's a harbor, so there still needs to be light because there's people working there. And how can we find sustainable ways and efficient ways to, innovative ways to change this? So this proposal, Piet, as I said, it was met with great enthusiasm. So it's very important to state that entrepreneurs themselves were the driving force behind implementing this light vision and this master plan. So they were very enthusiastic, and also they had the support of the municipality, so Holland, and also the province of Groningen, who are also part of this coalition. So that really could motivate everyone, and they're still very motivated to work on this. And also already they're working on steps for after darker sky to see what we can do more even. And on top of that, I also still want to mention, so this is all the entrepreneurs and everyone in the harbor, but I think it's also important to mention that in May of 2024, also the residents of the village of Lauwersoog got involved. After that, Piet, for example, went on a night walk with the people there. Piet is over here. And they walked through the village and they tried to indicate some places that had bad lighting or that were too intrusive into the houses. And they did measurements as well. So they are also involved into the project. And I think, oh no, I had one more slide. And this is an empty slide. So what it says at the top is that it's very important to have a transdisciplinary approach. And that means that you shouldn't just have researchers. So I'm from the university, so I know how easy it is to just stick within your own group and just do research. But I think for light pollution especially, it's so important that you also talk to all these different layers of society. And this slide is empty because what I was trying to do, and I started writing down all the people that were important for this Darker Sky project and this master plan in the harbor. And I started, and I had so many names, and at some point I was like, yeah, I'm forgetting people. So this slide is empty because it's supposed to be very full. And I just want to state with this that there's a lot of people involved, and that's hard, but I also think that makes this way more fun that you have so many people involved in this, this co-creation. And I think with that, I want to give the word to Jan Willem or Jan from the Hall to the harbor.
This one, that one. This one, yeah. All right. Okay, that's funny. The area Holwert is in the north of Friesland. You know the place. Oh, wait, what's the light? Oh, the light's on the other side. Oh, that's why the pijltjes gingen wel goed. Kijk, ja. All right, the north of the Netherlands with Holwert right here. And this is the pier in the Waddenzee, and this is the place where the ferry leaves to the island of Ameland. These are our three demonstrator sites: the village center, the industrial area, and the pier. Right. This is the village center. You can see pictures do the work. They work. A lot of light and a lot of work to be done. This is before any modifications. That also counts for the industrial area. This is only one picture. You can show many more, but yeah, that's still a big, huge problem in the area. You can see the lights here from, well, five kilometers away. So that's a big problem. And the last demonstrator site is the pier, which is a unique place in the middle of World Heritage, of course, in the middle of the Waddenzee. But every night it's an enormous glow in the dark, and there are no people, so it's really unnecessary to light it up like this. Right, a lot of text. I'm Jan Zijlstra from the Landmakers Corporation, and we have a connection with Holwert aan Zee, which is a bottom-up project, and this bottom-up approach also works for to reduce light pollution. We work together with the Hogeschool of Hamburg for the VR technology, and that's a very nice technology to show people what kind of change you can make in lighting and how that works out, because sometimes it's hard to imagine. We had a few sessions. This is the session with the entrepreneurs of the industrial area. And well, they think you can't reduce light because safety is an enormous issue, and they had some problems with burglary. So yeah, they think it's maybe not that easy to come with solutions. But after a good conversation, there are solutions. This was with the board of the young people of Hall, our sounding board, youngsters. Very nice meeting, and this was the meeting with 4 streets of the city center. This workshop, we started with a small
Questionnaire.
Some kind of zero measuring. They thought that Holbert was one of the darkest villages in the area, but we showed them these kind of photos, and pictures, they work really good. And after they've seen that, they realized that Holbert is not the darkest village in the area. And then you can see that if you show them pictures and if you show them solutions, they get enthusiastic about working on this topic. So it was a very nice workshop. We also had this Night of the Night event, which was a very nice evening with a good presentation about the ecology effects done by Andreas Hänel from Hall Larenstein. We had a presentation about the stars and almost the whole Milky Way and all the Milky Ways. De Rug did that. It was very nice. And we had the technology of the Hochschule of Hamburg in the house, and you see a lot of children on the photos. That's because Jan Willem did a workshop on the elementary school about dark sky, and they are really they picked this subject really good. They like the subject, and that's why they. You see a lot of kids here working with the VR glasses, and that was a very nice evening as well. So that's what we did. Thank you.
Jan, thank you to Nienke to show how to reach out to economic stakeholders such as the ones who are in the harbor, but also to the general public, even children. So for this last part of this event, we have the Q&A session. So if you have any last minute questions, you can put them still on Slido. But we'll go through the first question which were put on the website.
Nothing yet.
We've done nothing yet. So, I would say that if you have any question, we can give to use microphone directly. That will be much easier. And there's nothing on the chat. No? There is nothing on the chat. You can explain.
I don't have a question. I'm just throwing the cube.
Guess it was a clear story.
No, so the aim of our first part of our midterm event was really to show you all the different type of ways that we want to fight against light pollution and how to promote it. So here you truly had a description on the bottom-up approach and a top-down approach, but either way it works well. And for the next part of the project, our aim is truly to keep the dynamic going on. So we still have events planned at our demonstrator site. We are going still to take part in conferences and other type of events so that we can share our findings with general public, but also the decision makers. So I don't want to keep time to keep time. If there is no questions, you can. There is one.
Yeah, I do have a question actually for the one who gave the presentation from Hamburg. You mentioned that cyclists and pedestrians have other needs, and I was wondering what those differences were, what the needs were.
Yeah, thank you for the good question. Actually, when the weather is changing, especially in autumn and winter time, you have a lot of rain or snow. And then if you wear glasses and you have glare from not only from the cars, which is massively, but also from the public lighting, then you get in trouble. And we know that single crashes increase during this time of the year. I'm not saying that it's because of the public lighting, but we did a really short research, and the answer was, well, we need different conditions during the dark time period because of glare is one reason, and winter time is not as clear anymore as 20 years ago. We have this up and downs, and it's gray, and glare is really an issue. And this is what I mean with they have different needs. Car drivers just don't have this, but the public lighting in most cases is dedicated to cars, and the D-norms are not made for us, also for walking. And if you think of elderlies, or if you think of the city from 8 to 80, right? We know from elderlies that they also have difficulties, especially in the winter time, when it's so gray, with steps in the parks or on public spaces. They sometimes cannot really see very well which surface they have, and this is what I mean. They have different needs, but we want to participate them in public space. We are happy that COVID is gone. We want that people go out, and we want that they use our public spaces, which we make for them with nice benches and blah, 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 So this is what I mean when I'm talking they have different needs, but we need to guarantee that they can also walk or cycle safe from A to B during these different weather conditions. Does this answer your question?
Okay. So back to this point, what does that mean? I mean, 17K is much less glary than 2200K, for example. Is that your experience, or is that just my theory? So what does it mean in detail? So which solutions are you taking out of your experiences that the experiences are so different?
Yes, unfortunately, I have not an answer ready for that, It's still in the thinking, and it's still that we need more answers on this as well, right? It's difficult to answer. I'm not able to say, okay, so many Ks and Kelvin, and this color is good, blah, 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 blah. We showed them some different pictures and conditions and asked them, what is your subjective safety? Would you feel safe under these conditions? What makes you happy to cycle or walk there and there, right? So, but I must admit, we need much more research on this. We need much more questions on this. So we just started these kind of questions. We have an assumption. But to be honest, it's not ready to go right now out of this room, or to say, okay, our idea is to have all public lighting for cycling and walking, blah, 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 something like this, right? Because this is quite complex. It's really complex as well. But for the situation at the moment, I would say, as I globally said, we need other conditions for cycling and walking. Yeah.
But
Yes, might be able
it's
to answer.
not only the public lighting, because you're now you have totally different conditions for people walking and cycling, because especially with the e-bikes and so, people are cycling much faster than before. They have a lot of light by themselves. It's even more glary, as glary or even more glary than car lighting. Yeah, so I think that's nothing that only just public lighting can solve this.
Of course not.
Yeah, that's so many more problems and factors that are playing a role.
Of course, as I said, it's not that easy, but we have to start somehow, I would say. And of course, we are aware of the whole complexity, and we also use this projects, European projects, that we can work on these topics, right? Because as I said, imagine you are a mayor or you are a citizen, blah, 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 and the administration has to give answers. We have to care for our people, and this is our job. And we have to start somehow. And this is also maybe what we should point out here, that for cities, especially for cities and administration, and it is so important to use the chance to have European projects, because otherwise we can't do this innovative work, because it is absolutely clear for cities and for administration what we have to do, and you know, our budget is clear where to spend and so on and so forth. So there is only a tiny little gap for us to introduce innovative tools or questions, Andreas, you know this, yeah? So, and to be honest, it's also a plea to other cities at this stage, really to work and use these European projects, because it gives us a bunch, really a bunch to work with other peoples and interdisciplinary way together. But again, if it comes to this question, we are really at the beginning, but nevertheless, we also use this project to try to dive into these questions and to make it working and running, you know, with our other stakeholders. For example, in Hamburg, at the beginning of April, we also have another workshop discussing this, because we are building more and more cycle highways and everything, especially outside of cities. And I mean, we are here in the so-called cycling country in the Netherlands, the Fietsnelweg, yeah? And I'm pretty sure that you also want to have public lighting there. Maybe not, but nevertheless, you know, where to stop and how to continue. So this is why we also use the stakeholders for these questions and working on these projects.
I was just watching the time. We still got 5 minutes if you want to make any comment or questions. We still have a little bit of time. Yeah.
Maybe just a comment, because I really liked your explanation just a few minutes ago. I think it's a huge challenge to kind of have a follow-up of DarkSky, I think, with more cities to really admire this great ambition. So that's just I wanted to say a comment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really would be great to have a follow-up, but we have a lot of other EU projects which are picking up on the subject, and we've got one representative for other DarkSky project in Central Europe. It's a topic which is gaining weight.
So to the matter of follow-up projects, there are not very many studies who research how little light you actually need. So isn't that something where you could dive into too?
Okay, another conversation between her and Andreas.
the problem is that we have too bright light now, because due to the LED lighting, everything is getting brighter and brighter. If you look at the advertisement, yeah, we have just been the weekend I've been on the island of Norddeich. If you stand there in the state park, in the Kurzentrum, yeah, there is a billboard with 5,000 candela per square meter. It illuminates the whole place. It destroys all the environment. Yeah. So we had really the problem that we have too much bright light, glary light. All this street light, LED street lighting is glaring more than every other lights. Yeah. And I think that's our problem. We need less light and more continuous light. More uniform light, so it's not continuous, uniform light. That's a problem we need.
And since Enora, you made a note on follow-up projects or even sister projects, I mean, today we have also some other candidates from other projects with us. So, for example, from the DarkSky for Sea project here with us. So take the chance to talk to the people who are doing the same with the same aim, some different activities all over Europe, and get in contact and make exchanges. Otherwise, you can also just have a look at our website, on the DarkSky website, where we also have some news and some notes on further projects who are focusing on reducing light pollution all over Europe. So take the chance and have a look and get in contact. But we are, of course, also continuing our work, as Enora said. So we are still working on our solutions and hopefully coming up with some analyzing results by the end of this year. So yeah, stay tuned and have a look at our website and the newsletter we are providing also to our stakeholders.
Yes, thanks, Andrew. I think that we will conclude this first part of the midterm event. So you can find all of our social media here with our website and social media, which are pretty often updated. So do take a look at it. I will say thank you all for attending, physically and online. We will get back to you later on with all the documentation from today, so that you can take a look at it again. And so, yeah, round of applause to you for listening to us. And so for those who are here physically, we will take a break and we will start again at 4:30. If you want to find some snacks, you can go to the cafeteria, but do come back at 4:30. We will start right away. Thank you all.